Prepared to think outside the box. We are talking about your space, your four walls, but we're going to think about it a little bit differently today. I am joined with Joy Fan, the CEO and founder of Retail. And Joy is giving you so many different ideas and ways to think about your store and how you can create these moments and these experiences and these connections with your customers, which is so important in today's retail. We all know that. We talk a lot about that on our show about experiences, and Joy kind of lands that plane, giving you a lot of different ideas on what you can do and what's working now. I really feel like our listeners that take action on the advice given in today's show will be more profitable, will create more connection, and will stand out more to your community and to your customers. So this one episode could be a game changer to your business. Joy gives advice today on what your staff should be asking when people come in the door instead of the, how can I help you today? She's got a really good question that I would love our listeners to start asking. And towards the end of this episode, I asked Joy how she would rebuild retail from the ground up. And I kind of thought maybe she'd talk about some technology and AI and innovation things, but she talked about the audience that retailers really need to be focusing on. And I think she's got a big, important point here. So be sure that you tune into this full episode because I really feel like this audience that she's talking about is a game changer, is powerful, and you need to be connecting with them and calling out to them, serving them in unique, special ways. Also, Joy's answers to the resilience round are rich. We went a little deeper on some of her answers, which was really fun to do. After we were done filming, Joy and I stayed on and chatted a little bit longer and got to know each other. And I just really enjoyed her and what she does and how she thinks about retail. And she inspired me because there's something that a space I would like to open in my town. And I told her all about it. And who knows, maybe we'll collab one day. You never know what the future holds. But I was very inspired by this episode, and I know you will too. Before we dive in, let's learn a little bit more about my guest. Joy Fan is a two-time founder and retail innovation leader who pioneered the pop-up movement with Storefront and now leads Retail, a global retail services company. She advises city initiatives, REITs, developers, brands, and retailers on inclusive growth, urban revitalization, and retail's future. You can learn more at retail.co. That's RETELL.co. And prepare yourself. This is an awesome episode. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Crystal Vilkaitis, the Wolf of Main Street, and this is Rooted in Retail. Joy, welcome to Rooted in Retail. I am thrilled you're here.
Thank you so much, Crystal. I'm so psyched too.
Yeah, this is going to be a really awesome conversation, as we were just saying before we hit record. For people who have not heard of you and your company Retail, let's start there. Will you take a couple minutes and share more about you and your retail journey?
Absolutely. So I've been in this field for almost 2 decades, but it's a very personal space. Access to physical retail is just something that I sort of fell into just based on my own desire to go into physical retail back 20 years ago. And I would say that the different evolutions of it brought me to building retail today. I was previously our founding team of a company called Storefront, which is a multiple listing site for vacant retail. It was sold in 2016. And then during the pandemic in 2020, there was just a massive rise of vacancies again. And I really wanted to build something that would be accessible for, again, not only retailers to use to be able to drive more four-wall profitability, but also for brands, direct-to-consumer brands who were trying to get into physical retail and couldn't afford a pop-up space. So it really plays into more of the shop-in-shop opportunities for brands to jump into any type of space. And that's how Retail was born. It is, again, a marketplace. So we do offer up different types of spaces, and then we do a full service of retail consultancy agency work. So that's what it is.
I love it. We've met each other at New York Now. You were on a panel that I was moderating. So I was researching the guests, and retail is new to me. Anyone that's listening, it's RETELL.
Yeah.
And Joy, what's the website so they could go to that and learn more?
RETELL.co. And it's
.co,
definitely
perfect.
a play on words. When I was working with my head of brands around this, we were just talking about how great product is something that you want to tell everyone about. And so it really was born out of the narrative that great brands should be shared. So that's what we believe true retail should be. And that's what we created was retail.
Yeah, which I love. I love the name. I love the play on words. I couldn't agree more. I mean, and we're hearing a lot of that too from a storytelling perspective on social, and just really bringing those stories to the forefront of the product and the owner. And as I was researching you, I mean, I was like, it's so brilliant to be able to offer space within your store to other brands. And so I just feel like some of our listeners, this could be a really amazing opportunity for you to further your footprint without like launching your whole another location.
Yes.
And so it's just so smart. And then I was like, you got to be on the podcast because you're doing cool stuff and you've been in retail for so long. So you are definitely rooted in retail. So I'm really glad that you're here to share your expertise.
Thank you.
So Joy, you mentioned that you helped pioneer the pop-up retail movement as a founding member of Storefront, which became the world's largest marketplace for short-term retail space. For indie retailers listening, how can they use pop-ups or flexible retail formats strategically, either to test ideas, grow their audience, or partner with DTC brands?
Oh, love this. Thank you. I know there was a multiple part question and I'll do my best, but I believe that physical retail is the most expansive opportunity channel for brands. And I think it's a assumption that it's, always too expensive to be able to jump into. I do think that everyone goes into the wholesale and it's like booth costs and things like that. And then if I do a retail pop-up, it's going to be tens of hundreds of thousands. And yes, those numbers are correct. But the cool thing is that, in the past few years, there have been things like makers markets and shop and shops, shop shares are all different ways to kind of speak about getting into retail in a flexible way. And so what I'm excited about is a lot of it has been something built over time. But I think the easy way to look at it is that, the pricing of physical retail doesn't have to be, extreme. I look at it as different buckets. So if you are a brand that is sitting at the $100,000 range, or between that and 2 million, I always look at it as like, take about 10% of your annual revenue and dedicate that to being able to do some sort of physical retail. If you can do that, you will start growing again and expanding your footprint. So even doing from a maker's market to a shop and shop to some sort of pop-up, that would be, a huge opportunity for it because you're not only testing and learning from your consumers right then and there, but then you're also learning about what works for your brand. So you're also receiving content, so much content that you can use and reuse and use. So there's just multiple ways that it's beneficial for your brands.
Yeah, it's so true. And then I'm also thinking about some of our listeners who they have their own storefronts. And this could be a way for them to test some new product, but kind of low commitment, and also rent out some space in their store,
Yes.
like have a revenue stream, which
Yes.
is so smart.
Yes. I'm excited to chat more about that as well. Just tactical ways to do it. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, we're going to get there, but I'm like, this is just such a cool way, both from the brand perspective, retailer perspective, to really test and evolve, and kind of be innovative in the retail space. Now, let's talk physical versus online because
Yes.
consumer expectations have shifted dramatically. What do today's shoppers want from physical retail that they can't get online? And how can independent retailers deliver that?
Great one. Well, one, shoppers want the value of connection. And I think that's the biggest differentiator between being in physical space versus online. I think the pandemic brought so much competition and saturation in the e-commerce space that anyone who has a physical space, any retailer or anyone who wants to jump into it, it's such an advantage. And so what does that look like? I think bring a new unique experience. Retail was born out of storytelling. So I think that's a lot of what I like to remind retailers, independent retailers, is that your narrative from the very beginning of why you opened up that space and that very day that cleaned up and opened up doors, like everyone remembers that feeling of just opening up the doors. And I think that we have to remember that a space is an invitation for someone to experience something entirely new. So what brings your space into a unique positioning for someone to come in? And I think a few things, like one is always ensuring that your associates or people who are representing the space, so it could be you as the owner, partners, associates, they really, really nail down what the space is about. And I think that that's something, creating and representing the ethos of the brand is super, super key. I think also partnering with, whether it be indie or local, other brands in the area, or even connecting with and aligning with brands that are larger to kind of invite them in. If, let's say, you have already a built-in community, that's super, super key way to actually connect with your consumer. And I would say some examples of that would be, it's funny, it's September, but I'm already speaking and planning a lot of brands for holiday and retailers for holiday and what that looks like. And I think, everyone always asks, okay, how can I differentiate my space, or how can I actually attract partnerships? And I think there's so many different ways you can do it. But I love being able to share some of my favorite, which is, being able to create a personalization. So whether it's engraving, whether it's providing, postcards in the space and being able to say, great, a handwritten note that we deliver. Beverage partners are always a key way to actually get, your consumers who want to quench their thirst in a different way. So, a key thing also about the connection is I always think we're in a place where retail feels like it's all about conversion, but even from you sharing with your consumer, what are you excited about, as opposed to like, what are you looking for? I think that changes the conversation entirely. So those are a few things that I love to bring to the table when it comes to just connecting with the consumer.
Amazing. I just have this thought, like I feel like there's listeners right now who are like, I wish I could just sit down and have dinner with Joy and be like, this is my store, and just brainstorm the ways to really build the connection, tell the story, and really create this experience, which we talk a lot about on this show. It's so critical for our physical storefronts. I think they have such an advantage because they have their physical storefront to create that experience. But there are so many opportunities. I think sometimes we get stuck in our business in like, I say this a lot, it's hard to see the picture when you're in the frame. So stepping out and hearing from you and brainstorming these ways, having the beverage partner, like, have you been thinking of that, listener? Like, I think that is something that's so strong, and really connecting with the community and storytelling. And also, I think that sometimes we just assume customers that walk in know our story.
Yes.
And know, right? Like, oh, you probably have been here before. We've been here forever, so you probably know us. But there's a solid chance that they've never been in, or that they forgot.
Yes.
Like, we're busy. So let's remind them, let's invite them into that story and really train the team to do the same thing. And then, what are you excited about? Oh my gosh, Joy, I love that question. It's so good.
Yes, I think that it gives also the opportunity for sales associates or anyone who's standing there to also just connect from a human to human level. I think that they'll have also a narrative of, hey, I've been working here since XYZ, and it isn't from a seller's standpoint. I think that we go into that, and that's just, immediately you can do that from e-commerce, right? When you're in a physical space, you really get to just ask whatever is even on your mind. And that is something that I feel everyone's, starting to really ground themselves in, like, why do we go out anyway? So if you offer something that's unique and actually grounding, it really, really sets you apart.
It really does. And I think that it kind of minimizes the wall between this stranger coming into the store and trying to sell something. If you come at this curious mindset of just, what are you excited right now? It totally makes it feel human, connection,
Yes.
real. I love that.
Yes, because then you can, if you are local to the area and the person who's coming in isn't, maybe they're able to share, hey, I'm new to the area, or I just moved here, or maybe they're tourists and they're looking for a dinner spot later. There's just so many ways to actually create the connection rather than sell the product. The product is always there. So once they trust you, then it becomes expansive what you can sell.
Yep. I could just see myself, if somebody asked me that, I would be like, oh my gosh. I would be like, thank you so much.
No.
Let me think about that. And then all of a sudden it becomes like I'm just having this conversation with somebody in the store. I think that's an excellent tip. And it's something so easy that we can implement today.
Yes, absolutely.
It's so good. Okay, so retail has seen massive disruption from e-com to the pandemic, like you mentioned. What lessons from those shifts continue to shape your approach today? And what can indie retailers take from those lessons to build resilience?
Oh, yes. The word pandemic, just even like my stomach is
I know.
tied up, right? I mean, everyone, I just give so much gratitude to every single retailer who made it through. And those who maybe even had to shut down. I think if you're looking at a box of inventory, there's so many different ways to move that product still. But to answer your question more directly, I just remember how exhausting it was for retailers to just, I remember getting text messages all the time being like, okay, I can't open up the store fully. Remember how there was always that, like, it had to be at quarter capacity, half capacity. And we all know how difficult it is if you're an operator of the space to do scheduling for your staff, to be able to just operate of when shipments will come through, ensuring the safety, having all of these key things, guidelines being shared physically via email and then posted. So I just remember, and I want to kind of draw out the feeling of it because I just remember how exhausting it was. But I would say that the key lessons is really not getting so stuck on sort of the things that we can't control. I think that with instability of the economy, a lot of what happens is, we pay attention to just the inflation and having to increase pricing in different ways. And you're sitting there saying like, oh my gosh, when do I do all of that? I have to increase the pricing. There's definitely different ways to actually drive revenue and profit. And I think what I love doing is being able to say, well, how do we bring value back to your space as opposed to spiking the pricing where then, consumers are a little bit more cautious of kind of entering because they're like, oh, wait, now they're doing price checking and they're like, this is more expensive in the physical space. I can get it, online for way cheaper. And so how do we bring value in the space as opposed to decrease the value of in person? That's something that I always like to bring to the table. And if you do have a space, what's cool is that if you have a space, you can always bring value up by saying, okay, I have a corner wall. How do I actually bring artists to that space and be able to do a gallery showcase and maybe invite people in the evening for some sort of cool shopping experience? How do I bring in aligned products so you can do a capsule partnership collection and actually bring a cool, let's say, non-alcoholic beverage to the space, and you could charge them to say, great, come in and do, again, weekend pouring with us. Or an alcoholic beverage. I know that all the non-alcoholic is more of all the rage right now. But those are some different concepts and ideas that I think, really allow for space's value to be brought up. Another key way I would say is creating some programming for the space. I think that is something, it feels very heavy, but if you just ask your sales associates, hey, like what's some of the key things that you guys like to do? And I guarantee you from the brainstorm session, everyone has some sort of key, interesting talent. And so especially for the holiday, so, you can have someone who is really good at making cocktails. You can have someone who's really good at making wreaths. You can have someone who's really good at baking and you just provide that and the smell in the space. So I think we do so much that is around like, percentage off. And it's all of this is like
Mm.
everything starts to look the exact same. I do really think
Yep.
your space and the people that you invite into it, and then and the associates, you already take so much time getting to know them. You've created that environment. How do you actually let each individual shine and have their personality actually come into the space?
Oh.
And so
Mhm.
rather than programming that is sort of out of nowhere and we try to all keep up with what can be done in TikTok or, something like that, I think it's really, really important to kind of dive in deep with what makes sense for the space and what can actually have your own associates shine.
I love all of these ideas, Joy. It's really like instead of thinking about how am I marketing, how am I selling through, how am I selling through, how am I moving this product?
Right.
It's how am I creating value in the space? How am I bringing people in the space? Like you said, the products will sell, but how am I really cultivating this experience with my community? And to the point of associates, I really like that idea because I think that when the team members feel involved and a part of something, it's more meaningful, obviously.
Yes.
And I know like it's been a challenge, it's been a hot topic of finding good help and keeping good help. And I think that when you have employees who are engaged and a part of something, I want to share a quick example. One of my closest friends, her name is Julie. She's been in retail forever. She just started at a new company because the furniture and home decor store she was at decided to close, indie retailer. And now she's more in a big box setting, kind of a chain brand and doing furniture still. And they're letting her throw her own party. Like people in the industry know Julie.
Yes.
They've worked with her interior designers and homeowners. She's got a book of business, but they're making it really like fun for Julie. They're going to bring in food. They're going to do some giveaways and some raffles. And it's like a chance to catch up with Julie.
Yes.
And I'm so proud of my friend. And then she feels like she's not the owner. I think they have like 40 plus locations. And for them to choose her to do a whole
Wow.
event around her.
Wow.
And obviously I know like there's the motivation. She's got a book of business.
Yes.
They want to sell. They want the intro, right? I understand the whole reasoning for it, but I think it's very cool to give her that space and honor her and showcase her and her throw a party. Like,
Yes.
so it really goes in line with what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. That's what I think is like it's bringing all the interests into one space and allowing everyone to shine in it, because I think we get lost in the push for sales numbers as opposed to actually say, okay, well, what are you excited about? What are you interested in? And when someone feels like they can bring a part of, something that someone might not know about them into this space, yeah, there's true ownership. And you can see, again, the bundling happening. You could see that, people start to actually bring their personality into the space as opposed to like, I think it's often shared that people can't retain sales associates because they always have one foot out the door. Will bring their entire, again, full self in by learning a bit more. And I think that creates the interest not only in the programming, the space, and then you can start to see that they actually start paying attention to sales numbers and ideas and increasing, your year over year. It's funny how when we listen more, it comes in 10 times.
So true. And you mentioned connection, and we talk about connection a lot on the show. So starting with your employees and connecting and learning and listening and getting that involvement can be really powerful for the store and for your team. So good. Oh, Joy, I'm loving this conversation so much. So your company Retail experiments with creative ways for retailers to generate revenue from experiential models to shop-in-shop marketplaces. What are some fresh strategies you've seen work that indie retailers could try in their own communities?
Yes. So we talked about the programming. I'm going to speak about it in a revenue perspective. One thing is that when you create programming, you can sometimes, I've seen this done well, is that you can even charge for, let's say, classes if you want to. Let's say it's in the evening and maybe in the space. And what I love is that you can be really creative with the space. Even the store closes at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Optimize the hours afterwards to be able to say, well, how can we actually use this now as again, multi-use space? And so if, let's say, one of your sales associates is really, really great at photography, they can share something, or it could be more of a showcase, or it could be more of a maker's thing. But I think that seeing that the space can be used in different ways, you can start to now think about how revenue can be driven. I mentioned a bit about carving out also an area. So whether it be a wall, a shelf, or just a small little area, this is my favorite thing, is how do you actually create a multi-use space? Then you can actually, big and small, I think it has to match the ethos of your brand. But if, let's say, you wanted to invite other indie local brands to your space, direct to consumer or not, it's a really cool way to actually have them think of all the creative things. Let's say you're more of an operator and you're like, I don't know what to do. Well, fantastic. There's so many creative people. And what you could do is just create a call out on Instagram or TikTok to anyone and say, hey, we have a call out to partners and we'd love to run some programming. And excited to, again, run through and chat with anyone who's interested. And I think also, as mentioned, the photography, hosting events with affiliate partnerships or capsule partners is a key way to get a lot of traffic. So again, you could charge either a sponsor or be able to say, hey, there could be a beverage or a food partner that wants to come and utilize your space. The key thing is that if you're really good at what you do, you're already bringing tons of community. So you can really upcharge any brands who want to actually enter your space. And they can be from massive brands to even smaller brands who want to just get a foot in the door. But there's just multiple ways that you can do that.
Yeah. I love the idea of getting a sponsor. I think that is something that we maybe don't even think about partnering in that level, but because I'm almost even thinking a big box could sponsor the indie.
Yes.
And that could be very newsworthy. You
Yes.
could have PR around that, which helps both parties on really bridging that gap. They could even be considered competition, possibly.
Yes.
But if we're joining together to create moments for our customers and our community and the people we care about. And I mean, that's just that is a win-win-win, right? I mean, everybody wins in that situation. So I just think there's so many opportunities to think differently, again, about the space and how we're partnering with our communities and how we're driving revenue. It doesn't have to just be through the product.
Exactly. And I think, again, we get so, the instability of the economy is so real right now.
Yep.
I think inflation is so real right now. It's always the back of our mind. But I think when we pause and look at it as, how am I bringing value to this space? It becomes a different conversation. And you can let loose a little bit and start to brainstorm ways that you get to have fun. And when that comes in, people feel that. They feel the energy in the space. And I guarantee you'll see 2x, 3x, 10x, and just based on, again, the energy of the space.
Yes. Oh, so good. Are you looking to be the retailer that everyone knows and loves? If you are, we can help support you inside of the Independent Retailers Association. We have a lot of different tools that can help you grow your visibility, connect deeper with your customers to really create lifetime relationships. We've got training on marketing and social media kits to make social media so easy for you every single month. Plus, we have an amazing community inside that you can ask questions and get advice and share your wins. I'm in there, my team's in there, and all of our other hundreds of retail members. And at the pro level, you can tune in every other week to our Retail Pro strategy calls, where you get access to incredible pros in the retail space who are experts in all aspects, from merchandising to sales to texting to becoming a destination to hearing from fellow retailers who are knocking it out of the park with their events. We have so much great content inside of the Independent Retailers Association, which we call Indera. So we have a couple of different levels that you can join, starting at just $25 a month. I would love to see you inside. This is a way for us to connect, go deeper, and really help grow your business so you can become the store that everybody knows and loves. We'd love to see you there. You can go to joinindera.com to learn more. That's joinindera.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. I want some of my local retailers to be doing some of these fun things so I could go participate,
Yes.
right? I think we're all looking for fun stuff to go do in our towns, and you're just giving me a lot of ideas for our local stores. Now, Joy, before we go into the resilience round, you sent in some of these questions, which are so rich, and I'm really excited for this one. And I know you could talk forever about it, it sounds like. But if you could redesign the retail experience of the future from the ground up, what would it look like? And how can independents start preparing for that future today?
Well, I feel like it's such a beautiful opportunity right now for independent retailers, especially because when things are shaky, creatives win.
Yeah.
And, I think retail has been so transactional. The conversation around access and convenience and price point has always been leading in retail due to just access of information. And I do think as we slow down, we start to think about the physical space, as I mentioned, as an invitation. And when
Mhm.
you think about it as an invitation, you start getting creative of just moving some things around. I think really, really inexpensive ways to do that is just, remerchandising. But I'm going to give you something that I'm even more excited about is that, there's stats around women, specifically mothers, but drive 80% of all US consumer purchases and decisions for the household. So that's about 78,000, I think, average spend per household. And so if you just
Right.
think about what that would look like, what I love bringing to the table is because, again, we've been super transactional. Everyone, I think, always thinks about cutting corners on staffing, on physical space, on merchandising. And I do actually think in this time when you want to differentiate, the key thing is to actually redesign the space so that it's welcoming
Mm.
to a specific, again, to drive again that consumer base of again women, but specifically families. And I think when
Mhm.
I look at what the future of retail can look like, we've been sort of like squeezing all products into the space, and you kind of see that it's like suddenly no one can fit. But I do think designing spaces so that it is again more family friendly, more stroller friendly, more kid friendly, and ensuring that some of the messaging is actually again for the children, that changes up everything. I think from, personal experience, I always remember when there is either a sales associate or the space kind of has, whether it be carved out in an environment or they prepare something that is for the children, and you just see that the kids want to go back. And you have to
Mhm.
understand that the kids are sort of leading. They always remember either the free popsicle or the coloring books or someone sort of doing something really cool and fun or the lollipop and just these small little details. But I do think even designing it more family friendly and family forward thinking is really, really key. So I do think that that's something that is going to keep happening even more. And something that I always share is how do you bring families at play into the forefront of retail? Because the
Mm.
more you see that it is family friendly, the more, again, that subset of women consumers are coming to the space and they really, really think about, oh, wow, I could bring my kids. And it feels like, it's not a don't touch, but it's actually like play with the product. And when you have that tactile experience, it's for everyone. We're all kids at the end of the
Mm.
day. So I'm not saying just for families or people with young children, we're all big kids. So when you kind of
Yeah.
bring that to the experience, I mean, who doesn't love a lollipop or, a popsicle or ice cream or some sort of surprise and delight? But the more tactile, the more that you're able to sort of even section off an area for kids to either sit and draw or do something fun or even take home with them, whether it be a small little pin or a
Mhm.
sticker. It's so easy to create customized stickers that are, your brand or something cool or that they can color in. It's just super memorable. So that's what I feel like is going to be the future of retail.
Wow, I so agree with you. And also, there's this thing that happens where as the kid grows up, they're bringing their families there too because
Yes.
they had such a memorable time.
Yes.
It's like it's nostalgia and it's like part of our root now, right? Like,
Yes.
so, and we have a coffee shop that's here. It's walking distance to my house. I live out in like kind of a farm area, but there's houses here. So it was really cool when they opened a coffee shop that we could walk to.
Yes.
And I like to go there and work on my computer. there are often moms meeting up, bringing their kids, which can make it challenging sometimes when you're working. But what I said to my husband recently is I was like, where did the moms go before? Because they're like, they need a place to go. And all of a sudden they're at Pedro's, they're connecting. The kids can run around. There's a donkey named Pedro that is on the farm. That's how it's named after. And so they can sometimes see the donkey, and that's memorable for the kids. But like if you partnered this space with retail, experiential, if you have a beverage partner and these kids and the moms can connect and the kids can play, and to your point, they can touch and feel, because at Pedro's, it's very much a don't touch situation.
Right.
Like allowing that. The market is massive, as you just said.
Yes.
I just think there's massive opportunities for all of our listeners to really lean into that.
Yes.
So brilliant.
Yes. Don't forget, I think even brands that are more, if the product is male driven, also really always think about how to direct your, again, space for the female consumer, because more likely than not, they're the ones who are going to be deciding, hey, I want to gift this. And when the product is on the radar for, women, specifically for, again, seasonality, whether it's Father's Day or holiday or birthdays, I guarantee you that that's going to be the constant, again, checklist of things that will be purchased. So I do think that even if you are, again, on all male products, that's okay. Definitely yet, figure out again how to reach that female consumer.
Yep. And to that point, I've talked about Men's Warehouse before on this show. Like, we got married last year and I went with my husband to get his suit, and it was like dirty and dark and just not a great experience. And so I was like, I didn't want to go back with him. If I would have went back with him though, and it was a good experience, he would have bought more. I would have been like, you need to try this on. I really think this is great. I need you to try. Don't you need more socks? Like, I would have been selling more for him.
Oh, exactly. I love that you're actually painting the experience that happens, is that if there is a nice little lounge and you're being offered something to drink, maybe a sparkling water, oh, yes, then you would spend the whole day. And when we think about convenience, again, most male shoppers, shop for convenience. They sort of have some things pick up. But what women do is they re-merchandise their, again, partner or brother or father, whomever you're shopping with, their entire lifestyle and closet. So it is very important to, again, bring that space into the hands of a female consumer.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. So good. All right, Joy, are you ready for the resilience round?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Best business book.
Best business book. Okay. So when I saw that, what came to mind immediately is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I'll tell you why. It's one of my favorite because it is one of those books that you can pick up over and over again, not just when you start a business, but oftentimes when you feel like you're kind of flatlining or you just don't have any inspiration. And you can start the book actually from anywhere, in my mind, because you just get so deep in it. You can also listen to it as a audiobook as well. But it's so exciting and inspiring because it gives you thoughtful questions, but also gives you a lot of examples of what works. And I think Simon does such an incredible job of getting you out of the pattern of your own sort of day-to-day operator mindset and into the creative mindset of why you started, your brand, your retail company in the first place. And then you start really deep diving in deep of what you imagine the space could look like. And I think that is some of the stuff that we've been speaking about, is really sort of giving that depth to your space.
So true. I love Simon Sinek so much, and that is an excellent book recommendation. Everyone, you got to read it. Best retail technology, like an app or software?
Well, I would say Postscript are attentive. Postscript, I think it's via Shopify, but it's SMS marketing. And for those who don't do SMS marketing already, it's one of those where, I don't know about you, but like my email inbox is it's just so overcrowded and saturated that sometimes I just go in and do like massive,
I do
subscribe or whatnot. And so, I do think not to just do SMS blast, but it's actually a beautiful tool for driving, again, more personalization, promotional incentives, in-store programming if you wanted to share that, real-time one-on-one engagement. So I just think it's a new way that you provide. Again, the back end tool makes it easy to be able to say, okay, great, what are some offers I can share? But then the one-on-one clienteling part of it makes it super, super great to be able to actually use the back end tool and see it more as a CRM. So Postscript, Attentive does it too, but I would say
Okay.
that would be one that, if for listeners who haven't been exposed to it, it's just a great way to actually capture audience in a new way and start to kind of
Mhm.
share cool new things that are happening in store.
Love it. And I love that you also said that you can have an experience there and connection there. It doesn't have to be all about the promotion,
Yeah.
and there's a whole strategy around texting.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so yeah,
Yes. Yes. And I think
yeah,
that that's the fun thing. It's not always a transaction, give or take.
exactly. So true. How do you keep up with the ever changing retail landscape?
Oh, yes. Well, again, when the world feels crazy and unstable, I would say for anyone, it doesn't have to even be retail, but pick your strong suit and double down. It's just overwhelming to try to do everything. We talked about
Mhm.
this at New York Now, but I think what ends up happening when the world is chaos is we go into this like list of all the things that we haven't done. And then we start beating ourselves up on, oh, I should do more TikToks. I should do more, I should be on PR. I should do more things or get into customer service. And the long list just only gets longer. And I do think
Yeah.
that one of the most meditative things to do is just kind of sit there and be like, what am I really good at? Because when we do that and we double down, we tend to then let the other things sort of float, and you start to see, okay, I have resources for the other things. But if I double
Mhm.
down, then now you can actually drive more revenue to pay for the other things. So if you're not really
Yes.
great at TikTok, don't worry. Don't try to learn it because, and it's, I think, always learn new things, but when it's not chaotic and life doesn't feel unstable. Double down on
Yes.
the things that you know so that you can actually do it sort of seamlessly and it feels fun again. And I think that that's a really important realignment with self, because then you start to say, okay, if let's say, and they're so analog too, is like it doesn't have to be things that are just, newsletter driven or e-commerce driven. It can be things that you actually like to do. So if you
Mhm.
like to bake some cookies and bring it to the store. If you like to rearrange things, bring some friends and share with them, hey, I want to kind of do some rearranging of the store. If you're more
Yeah.
of a plant person, amazing. Partner with another plant brand or floral brands and shop and bring cool flowers into the space. It's
Mhm.
always something that we innately do well that actually shines, as opposed to going into the long list of things that we don't know how to do and drown our sorrows in
Mm.
wanting to learn it and saying we're so behind, because the massive sort of beat up of internal self-talk, it's not good for business. Again, in the energy of space and providing your retail space as an invitation, it's super important to kind of readjust and realign with what you're good at.
I love that you're giving permission to not have to feel like you need to keep up with everything everywhere to be able to stand out and stay in business and retail. It's not at all what it's about. I think that was really good advice.
Yeah.
So awesome, Joy. Now, if you had to start your business all over again, what's one thing you'd do differently?
What would I do differently? I would say, oh, there's so many things that, a list of things that I can pull. This is something that I guess would be more personal for those retailers who either have been, or brands who either have been offered investment or, have heard massive stories about those who get, massive amounts of investment. And I think that there's a assumption that drives success.
Mm.
Something that we did was we chased the excitement of an accelerator, and it was inaugural. But I think something that I would have every listener do is that, irregardless of the brand, the catchy sort of inauguration of something, whether it's an investor or an accelerator, I would definitely think twice about giving away equity of your brand, retail, anything. It could be a big, big name. and they may share an opportunity, but really do your diligence on what that is and ensure that they actually have a personalized step-by-step of what the offer is. I think sometimes we go into it saying like, oh, wow, this major brand is going to help me. Really dial into what is going to happen and look at it
Mm.
as like, what's the business plan for them? Because if you're sharing that and expecting a lot, it's actually really difficult to sort of back channel out of that after signing. And so that would be something that I would just be a little bit have been more aware of. We were part of an accelerator and it was fantastic. We met so many great founders, but because it was inaugural, it was harder to track the actual benefits. And I think that that's just something I would be cognizant for the future.
Yeah. Awesome advice. Joy, finally, what do you think the future of independent retail looks like?
Oh, it's exciting times. Again, economic instability equals creatives rising. And I do think that there will be more mixed use retail done really, really, really well, but more customer centric offerings as well. I think there will be more value driven relationships. Spaces will be designed better. People will be investing in the way the space looks for more differentiation. But I do think that this is a really beautiful time. I find anytime we're sort of split and the world has a lot of pressure, creatives rise.
I could not agree more. And man, retail is creative. It's just filled with so many amazing creatives who have such a big heart for their communities. And so I so agree. It's the time for indies. Joy, how can people connect and learn more about you?
You can, again, contact hello@retail, retell.co. And yeah, I mean, I would love to hear from any of, you can title it Rooted in Retail. I'd love to prioritize any phone calls if people are curious or interested. If you want to, figure out how to strategize your space and drive additional revenue, if you want to create partnerships with big retailers or brands, there's just endless ways. And it's such a personal space for me to be able to, again, really drive resilience for smaller retailers, independent retailers, SMBs, direct-to-consumer brands, because, I do think that if we remain, it gives the right type of choice for consumers. And so it's the differentiated product that drives more interesting looking retail. And I always think that, it makes neighborhoods, again, just more beautiful when we actually can dive into what we're offering and the value of our space.
So true. Awesome. Joy, so wonderful having you on the show today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and your ideas. I mean, this was such a rich conversation. So I am so grateful. And everyone that's listening, go check out retail.co. Like I said, I was just blown away by what Joy is doing and how they're helping retailers. It's really cool. And we'll link to everything as well. And remember that I am rooting for your success. Have a great week ahead. Bye, everyone. Thanks,
Bye.
Joy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Rooted in Retail podcast. It means the world to me to have you here. If you find value in this show and you listen on an iPhone, if you could leave a review on the Apple Podcast app, that would be amazing. And if you watch YouTube, if you're a YouTube subscriber, we film this. And so if you rather watch the show, you can also do that over on YouTube. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.